The Golden Plate was not just any restaurant. It was a restaurant for the city's elite. Nestled in the heart of downtown, its luxurious decor, exceptional cuisine, and impeccable service drew politicians, celebrities, and high-powered executives. The restaurant's golden exterior glimmered under the afternoon sun, and the inside was no less grand. Crystal chandeliers hung from the ceilings, their lights casting a warm glow over mahogany tables set with fine china and silverware polished to perfection. Among the staff was Ryan Carter, a server with aspirations to climb the ladder of success. He was sharp and efficient, but carried a flaw: his judgmental tendencies. Ryan's worldview was shaped by his belief that appearances dictated worth, and it often reflected in his interactions with customers. To him, serving those who dressed and acted the part of wealth guaranteed better tips and connections. Those who didn't, they were an afterthought. As the lunch rush approached, Ryan moved through the restaurant like a dancer, balancing trays of food while flashing his practiced smile at patrons. Business people in tailored suits, couples celebrating anniversaries, and even a local TV anchor filled the tables. Ryan thrived in this environment, where every interaction felt like a step closer to his vision of success. Then she walked in. The woman was a stark contrast to the usual clientele. She was older, perhaps in her late 60s or early 70s, with skin like polished mahogany and eyes that shone with wisdom. Her dress, though clean and pressed, was modest and worn, as was her handbag. Her hair was neatly styled, and she walked with a deliberate grace, though her slightly stooped posture betrayed her years. She paused at the host's stand, scanning the room with a smile that radiated warmth. "Good afternoon," she said, her voice steady but kind. "I'd like a table for one." The hostess, a young woman named Lisa, was about to respond when Ryan intercepted. He had seen the woman enter and decided instantly that she didn't belong. He plastered on a tight smile and addressed her before Lisa could speak. "Ma'am," Ryan began, his tone polite but strained, "this is a fine dining establishment. Are you sure you're in the right place? There's a cafe just down the street that might be more suitable." The woman's smile faltered slightly, but she held her composure. "I'd like to eat here," she said firmly. Ryan hesitated, his eyes darting to the other tables. "Of course," he said after a pause. "But just so you know, our kitchen is very busy, and there may be a long wait for service." "That's fine," the woman replied calmly. "I'm not in a rush." Lisa shot Ryan a disapproving look, but said nothing as she seated the woman at a small table by the window. The woman settled into her chair and placed her handbag on her lap, looking out at the bustling street. Ryan, meanwhile, made no effort to approach her table. He rationalized his decision by convincing himself that his time was better spent on customers who would tip generously. Minutes turned into 15, then 20. The woman remained patient, her demeanor unchanging. She occasionally glanced at her watch, but otherwise seemed content. At a nearby table, a couple noticed her sitting alone. "Is she being ignored?" the man whispered to his wife. "Looks like it," she replied. "That's awful." The whispers reached Lisa's ears, and she decided to confront Ryan. "Hey," she said sharply, cornering him near the service station. "Why haven't you taken her order?" Ryan shrugged. "I told her there'd be a wait. She doesn't exactly look like she's here to spend money." Lisa glared at him, her cheeks flushing with anger. "That's not for you to decide. She's a customer and you're a server. Do your job." Ryan muttered something under his breath, but didn't move toward the table. Lisa was about to intervene when the restaurant's front door opened and a tall man entered. His arrival caused a ripple through the staff. Marcus Graham, the owner of the Golden Plate, had just walked in. Marcus was a man who commanded attention without demanding it. At 42, he had built a reputation as a savvy businessman with a deep respect for his employees and customers. He dressed impeccably, his tailored navy suit complementing his commanding presence. Despite his success, Marcus was known for his humility and approachability, a rarity in his circles. As he stepped into the restaurant, Marcus scanned the room with a practiced eye. He noticed the buzz of activity, the satisfied faces of diners, and the efficiency of his staff. But then his gaze landed on the woman by the window, sitting alone, her table untouched. His breath caught for a moment. "Mom," he whispered to himself. He crossed the room swiftly, his long strides carrying him to her side. The woman looked up, her face breaking into a radiant smile. "Marcus," she exclaimed, her voice filled with joy. "Mom," he said, leaning down to embrace her. "What are you doing here? You should have told me you were coming." "I didn't want to bother you," she replied, patting his arm. "I was in the neighborhood and thought I'd stop by to see your restaurant. It's beautiful, Marcus." His chest swelled with pride, but as he took in the empty table and her untouched water glass, his smile faded. "Has anyone served you yet?" he asked, trying to mask his frustration. "Oh, no," she said lightly. "They seemed busy, so I didn't want to trouble them." Marcus's jaw tightened. He knew his mother well enough to recognize when she was downplaying a situation. He glanced around the room, his sharp eyes searching for answers. Then he spotted Ryan, lingering by the service station, avoiding eye contact. "Excuse me for a moment, Mom," Marcus said, his tone calm but firm. As Marcus walked toward the staff area, a storm was brewing within him. His restaurant had a reputation for excellence, not just in food but in service and hospitality. The idea that his mother, his greatest inspiration, had been treated poorly in his establishment was unacceptable. He reached the service station and called out, "Ryan." The young man turned, his face paling as he saw the expression on Marcus's face. "Yes, sir," he stammered. Marcus gestured toward the window. "That's my mother sitting at that table. Can you explain to me why she hasn't been served?" Ryan opened his mouth, searching for an excuse, but the words caught in his throat. I didn't realize she was your mother," he finally said, his voice barely above a whisper. Marcus's eyes narrowed. "Does it matter whose mother she is? She's a paying customer, and you've ignored her for 20 minutes. Why?" Ryan hesitated, then said, I didn't think she fit the profile of our usual clientele." The words hung in the air, heavy with implication. Marcus took a deep breath, his disappointment evident. "Ryan," he began, his voice low but firm, "this restaurant was built on the principle of respect. Respect for everyone who walks through those doors, regardless of how they look or where they come from. Have I ever given you a reason to think otherwise?" Ryan approached the table with trepidation, his mind racing. His palms were damp, and he clenched his notepad as if it were a lifeline. When he arrived at the table, the elderly woman looked up at him with an expression of quiet patience. Her kind eyes seemed to study him, not with anger, but with a curiosity that made his guilt intensify. "Good afternoon, ma'am," Ryan began, his voice shaky but earnest. "I'd like to apologize for the delay. May I take your order?" The woman tilted her head slightly, her smile faint but warm. "Thank you, young man," she said, her voice calm and steady. "I'd like the chicken Alfredo, please, and some iced tea." Ryan jotted down the order quickly, nodding. "Of course. I'll make sure it's prepared as soon as possible." As he turned to leave, the woman's gentle voice stopped him. "What's your name?" she asked. "Ryan, ma'am," he replied, glancing back at her. "Thank you, Ryan," she said, her eyes locking with his. "I appreciate your help." Her words, simple as they were, carried a weight that Ryan felt deeply. He hurried to the kitchen, determined to make amends. The moment he handed off the order, he found himself replaying the last half hour in his mind. He realized how callously he had dismissed her based solely on appearances. His stomach churned with regret. Meanwhile, Marcus returned to his mother's side, pulling out the chair across from her. He reached across the table, placing his hand over hers. "Mom," he began, his voice thick with emotion, "I am so sorry this happened. I had no idea." She cut him off gently, her smile as unwavering as ever. "Marcus, stop. I don't want you to apologize for something you didn't do. You've built something amazing here, and I can see how much love and care you put into this place. One person's mistake doesn't define the whole. Marcus sighed, shaking his head. But it's not just a mistake. It's prejudice. And it happened in my restaurant. His mother leaned back, her gaze steady. Yes, it did. But moments like this are opportunities to teach, not just punish. People don't grow if you shut them down completely. Her words gave Marcus pause. She had always been a source of wisdom in his life, guiding him with compassion even in the toughest of times. He nodded slowly, resolving to handle the situation with the same grace she exemplified. As they waited for the food, Marcus and his mother reminisced about the past. She shared stories of her struggles as a single mother, working long hours to provide for him and instill values of kindness and perseverance. Marcus listened intently, his admiration for her growing with every word. In the kitchen, Ryan watched as the chef plated the chicken Alfredo with meticulous care. He carried the dish out himself, ensuring everything was perfect. As he approached the table, his heart thudded in his chest. "Here you are, ma'am," he said, setting the plate and drink before her. "Chicken Alfredo and iced tea. Please let me know if there's anything else I can get for you." She looked up at him, her smile widening. "Thank you, Ryan. This looks wonderful." Marcus watched the exchange in silence, noting Ryan's nervous but genuine demeanor. His mother picked up her fork and took a bite, her face lighting up with delight. "This is excellent," she said, glancing between Ryan and Marcus. "You've trained your staff well." Ryan felt a flicker of relief but remained standing. I just wanted to say I'm sorry, ma'am. For earlier, I judged you unfairly, and it was wrong. It won't happen again." The woman set her fork down, regarding him thoughtfully. "Thank you, Ryan. It takes courage to admit when you're wrong. I accept your apology." Her words felt like a balm to Ryan's frayed nerves, but they also carried a deeper lesson. He realized that she could have been angry, even vengeful, but she chose understanding instead. It was a choice he rarely considered in his own life. Marcus nodded approvingly. "Thank you, Ryan," he said. "Now, why don't you take a break? I'll cover this table for the rest of the meal." Ryan hesitated, then nodded and stepped away, his mind swirling with thoughts. As the meal progressed, Marcus's mother continued to marvel at the restaurant. "It's even more beautiful than I imagined," she said, her eyes taking in the intricate details of the decor. "You've done so well for yourself, Marcus." "I couldn't have done it without you, Mom," Marcus replied. "You're the reason I work so hard. I wanted to make you proud." "Oh, Marcus," she said, reaching across the table to squeeze his hand. "I've been proud of you since the day you were born. This is just the icing on the cake." Their conversation was interrupted by Lisa, who approached the table hesitantly. "Mr. Graham, ma'am," she said, her voice quiet. "I just wanted to say I'm sorry for what happened earlier. I should have spoken up sooner." Marcus's mother smiled at her warmly. "Thank you, dear. It's never too late to do the right thing." Lisa nodded, her cheeks flushing with gratitude. She excused herself, leaving the table with a sense of relief. Toward the end of the meal, Marcus stood and addressed the entire staff. "Can I have everyone's attention, please?" The room quieted as employees stopped what they were doing to listen. "This is my mother," Marcus began, gesturing to the woman sitting at the table. "She is the reason I'm standing here today. Everything I've built, every success I've achieved, is because of her sacrifices, her wisdom, and her love." He paused, his voice steady but filled with emotion. "Today, someone on our team judged her unfairly based on appearances. That's not what this restaurant stands for. We are here to serve every person who walks through those doors with respect and dignity. If we fail at that, we fail entirely." The staff murmured their agreement, many nodding solemnly. Ryan, standing near the back, felt a lump rise in his throat. He knew Marcus's words were directed at him, but they carried no malice, only the hope for change. Marcus turned to his mother, his expression softening. "Mom, Thank you for being here today. You've reminded me why I started this journey in the first place. His mother's eyes glistened with unshed tears. Thank you, Marcus. I'm so proud of you. The room erupted in applause, the staff and patrons alike moved by the heartfelt moment. As the clapping subsided, Marcus returned to his mother's side, and they shared a smile that spoke volumes. The following week, the restaurant felt different. The staff moved with renewed purpose, their interactions tinged with a deeper awareness. Ryan, in particular, had undergone a transformation. He greeted every customer with genuine warmth, no longer allowing assumptions to cloud his judgment. The lesson he had learned stayed with him, a reminder of the power of humility and growth. Marcus observed these changes with quiet satisfaction. The incident with his mother had revealed weaknesses in his team, but also their capacity for improvement. It reaffirmed his belief that leadership wasn't just about maintaining a business. It was about fostering a culture of respect and inclusivity. One evening, Ryan approached Marcus in his office. The young man hesitated at the door, clutching a small envelope. "Mr. Graham, do you have a moment?" Ryan asked, his voice steady but tentative. Marcus gestured for him to come in, setting aside the paperwork he was reviewing. "Of course. What's on your mind?" Ryan stepped forward, holding out the envelope. "I wrote a letter for your mother. I was hoping you could give it to her." Marcus raised an eyebrow, taking the envelope. "What's this about?" "It's just—" Ryan hesitated, searching for the right words. "I wanted to express how much her forgiveness meant to me, and how it's changed the way I see people. She didn't have to be kind, but she was. It taught me more than I can say." Marcus's expression softened. He opened the envelope and scanned the letter, his eyes flickering with emotion. Ryan had poured his heart into it, detailing not only his regret, but also his newfound commitment to treating everyone with dignity. "This is thoughtful, Ryan," Marcus said, folding the letter carefully. "I'll make sure she gets it." "Thank you," Ryan replied, his shoulders relaxing. "And thank you for not firing me. I know I deserved it." Marcus shook his head. "You deserved a chance to learn, and you took it. That's what matters." Ryan left the office feeling lighter, a sense of purpose blooming within him. A few days later, Marcus visited his mother's home. He handed her the letter, watching as she unfolded it and began to read. Her expression shifted from curiosity to tenderness as she took in Ryan's words. When she finished, she set the letter down and looked at Marcus. "He's a good boy," she said. "Lost his way for a moment, but we all do sometimes." Marcus smiled, leaning back in his chair. "You have a way of seeing the best in people, Mom, even when they don't deserve it." She chuckled softly. "Oh, Marcus, no one is beyond redemption, not if they're willing to change." Her words stayed with him as they shared a quiet dinner together, the warmth of her presence a constant source of comfort. He thought back to his own journey, how her unwavering belief in him had pushed him to succeed despite the odds. It was a lesson he vowed to carry forward, both as a son and as a leader. At the restaurant, Marcus implemented new training programs, focusing on empathy and cultural sensitivity. He brought in guest speakers to share their stories, encouraging the staff to see the world through different lenses. The session sparked meaningful conversations, deepening the team's bond and reinforcing their shared mission. One of the speakers, a civil rights advocate, shared a story about overcoming prejudice. His words resonated deeply with Ryan, who approached him afterward to express his gratitude. "I've been on the wrong side of this before," Ryan admitted, "but I'm trying to do better. Your story helps me see why it's so important." The advocate smiled, clapping him on the shoulder. Acknowledging the problem is the first step. The rest is about action. Months passed, and the restaurant thrived. The incident that had once been a source of shame became a cornerstone of their growth. Patrons noticed the change, commenting on the staff's warmth and attentiveness. Marcus often overheard customers praising the atmosphere, and he knew it was because of his mother's influence. One evening, Marcus decided to honor her in a special way. He organized a charity dinner at the restaurant, dedicating the event to her and her lifelong commitment to kindness and resilience. The proceeds would go to a foundation supporting single mothers, a cause close to both their hearts. The night of the event, the restaurant was filled with laughter and light. Marcus's mother sat at the head of the table, surrounded by friends, family, and staff who had come to admire her. Marcus stood to give a speech, his voice steady but emotional. "This restaurant wouldn't exist without my mother," he began. "Her strength, her wisdom, and her unwavering love are the foundation of everything I built. She taught me that success isn't just about what you achieve. It's about how you treat others along the way." He paused, his gaze sweeping the room. "And that's a lesson I hope we all carry with us. Because when we choose kindness, we create a ripple effect that can change the world." The room erupted in applause, the clinking of glasses echoing through the space. Marcus's mother beamed, her pride evident as she looked at her son. After the event, Ryan approached her with a nervous smile. "Ma'am, I just wanted to thank you again for everything. You didn't just forgive me. You helped me become a better person." She reached out, taking his hand in hers. "You're welcome, Ryan, and thank you for listening. That's the first step to making a difference." Her words stayed with him, a guiding light as he continued to grow both personally and professionally. The story of the elderly woman and the young waiter became a part of the restaurant's legacy, a reminder of the power of compassion and the potential for change. Marcus often shared the tale with new employees, using it to emphasize the values that define their work. And as for Marcus's mother, she continued to visit the restaurant, her presence a source of inspiration for everyone who crossed her path. Her quiet strength and unshakable grace left an indelible mark, proving that even in the face of prejudice, kindness could triumph. The end.